This is a really impressive wagon. KR Models have gone above and beyond with the very distinctive design of these wagons. Hi there to you, I'm Jennifer Kirk, welcoming you back up here to the loft on Weir Yard. Now today we're going to be taking a look at an all-new set of wagon releases, and these are the first wagons to be released from the relative newcomer KR Models. Of course, we have taken a look at their first locomotive release with the GT3 and some of their working livery samples in the case of the Fell, and we've had the EP roundup of forthcoming models. But I'm really pleased to see these wagons that KR Models have very kindly sent over a full set of 9 of. Now these are the Consett iron ore bogie hoppers, and they were built in the early days of British Railways in order to really make efficient the transporting of iron ore from Tyne Dock all the way up to the steelworks at Consett. Now this was quite a steeply graded line in places and proved quite a challenge for locomotives to get these really heavy loads up there. And one of the things that the bogie iron ore hoppers were designed to do was to speed up the turnaround, and in many respects you could argue that this was one of the forerunners of the merry-go-round traffic that we later saw with some of the coal mines and power stations. 20 wagons were built, and this allowed 2 rakes of 9 to be used on an intensive round-robin service, with 2 spare wagons which allowed routine maintenance and unscheduled repairs to be carried out to the wagons without disrupting the flow of trains. Now these ran behind initially a little bit of a hodgepodge of locomotives, including the Q6, which you can get a model from Hornby, but very quickly as the standard 9Fs appeared on the scene, these became incredibly successful on these heavy loads, with some very spirited volcanic performances as they headed on up the valley towards the steelworks, with some incredibly heavy loads, some of the heaviest to run on BR metals at the time. Now these locomotives were outfitted with a Westinghouse air pump on the running plate. This wasn't to operate the brakes, but actually to be able to operate the discharge doors, and this made for a very efficient turnaround at the steelworks as they dumped the load, ran round and then headed back to the docks for the next load up the valley. I'm really grateful to KR Models for sending over a full set of 9 of these, and these include 3 packs of 3, which are all different running numbers, and these allow the modeler to build up a prototypical rake of 9 on your layout. There's also the option to get them with or without the iron ore loads. And they are removable from the wagons, so it's really easy to take them out to model them on the way down back to Tyne Dock, or put them back in to model a fully laden train heading back up towards the steelworks. But without further ado, let's take a closer look at today's models under review, and this video comes to you in association with Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts, and let's take a closer look. The all-new wagons from KR Models actually come in some very distinctive packaging, just like we saw with the locomotives that we looked at. In this white, it's like nothing that any other manufacturer is producing. We've got the lovely line diagram of the wagon itself, really easy to spot both at shows and on model shop shelves. This particular one is Consett Iron Ore Wagon Pack A, and this is loaded, so you can see underneath there the catalogue number KIRM.con.00.3A-load, and KR Models have also very kindly sent over the other 2 packs that are available. Again, same style boxes, so we've got Wagon Pack C and Wagon Pack B. All of these are loaded, but one of the small issues that KR Models have run up against is that for some reason the factory has packaged the loaded models, not all of them, just a few of them, missing some loads. And if you do receive a loaded pack and it's missing a load, then do get in contact with KR Models and they will send out post-free an additional pack of however many loads that you're missing. And the loads for the wagons are in two parts, so this is for a single Consett iron ore wagon. Now, a few people have asked whether you can buy these separately, and at the present time the answer is no, but it's quite a possibility that in the future they may well be released as separately purchasable items. So we're going to delve into the contents of the box, and we've got 3 wagons in blister packs, and these all just slide in side by side. So actually somewhat easy to get in and out of the box, which is good. And each of these, we just lift the lid. And the wagons are different. Each one of these does carry a different running number, but it's also the case that there are prototypically accurate detail embellishments on each of the wagons, and these are modelled off photographs of the real wagons. You can see there, because it is a loaded pack, there are the loads in situ, and if you want to then take them out, it really is a simple step, and then you can see inside we've got the full detailed interior of the wagon. One thing that struck me is this British Railways lozenge on the side. I've never seen that reproduced on a wagon before. It's certainly something very, very different and interesting, but certainly not all of these wagons carry it, but there are some that do. The lettering is crisp and sharp. We've got their iron ore to work between Tyneside and Consett only. And that means that these wagons really didn't stray from quite a specific geographical location. Although, rule 1, they're going to be trundling through Weir Yard quite a lot. The bogies capture that utilitarian heavy-duty look quite well, although one thing I would say is that they're a little bit too shiny for my liking. That is the finish on the plastic, and certainly toning these down with some weathering, even if you do a light weathering, in my opinion, is an absolute must. The real wagons would have very quickly begun to look somewhat rusty because of the iron ore, even if they weren't actually rusting. The mechanism of these side air operating doors is captured really well, and these do actually, they look like separately fitted pieces. I'm not sure that they are, but they certainly look like the prototype, and it's a really interesting design, and this allowed these wagons to be unloaded by the loco crew really quickly and efficiently. You just effectively pulled a lever and these doors would come open and the iron ore would just fall out into the trackside hoppers. The underside is resplendent with not just all that braking detail with the vacuum cylinders and what I'm presuming are air tanks for the reservoir for operating the side doors, but you can see that there's actually a lovely frame in there for the wagon, and just to stop them falling out unexpectedly, I'm just going to take out these wagon loads so I can demonstrate the fineness of the actual internals of this wagon. So I've got here just an old pair of tweezers, and underneath you can see that the chassis is as per the prototype. You can actually poke right down into the internal structure. The wagons themselves have a very interesting shape, the idea being that they would gravity discharge completely through the sides rather than through the bottoms. The couplings are on this self-centering spring-loaded mechanism. We've seen this on coaches a lot. They're not mounted to the bogies at all, and we've got these NEM pockets with the slimline tension locks fitted. The buffers look really quite fine. You can see there we've got lots of air gaps through that buffer assembly, and they are, again, as per the prototype, but they are not sprung loaded. Going back to the top, I'm just going to have a look there. You can see actually with the loads removed, we've got this very intricate triangular internal structure. And what actually intrigues me is that this internal structure that allows them to discharge quickly through the sides actually cuts out somewhere in the region of, it looks like, about half of their internal capacity. But it has to be remembered that iron ore is incredibly dense, and that means that this keeps the wagons within the axle loading that was permitted on the route. Certainly if these had been absolutely full of iron ore, I can imagine that they would have needed to have run on at least 6 wheel bogies, and possibly have been shorter as well. So all round, this is the compromise that British Railways chose to do. You can see there that they're rated up to 56 tonnes. That is exceptionally heavy for a 4-axle bogie wagon, and certainly it demonstrates just how heavy iron ore is. We've also got the tare weight there, 29 tonnes and 300 weight. So certainly to carry that kind of a payload, these needed to be quite a strong, well-built wagon. Running number there, we've got just underneath the gross weight, B446014, and these are certainly one of the earliest sets of wagons that BR themselves made rather than one of the big 4 companies. The ends of the wagon have these cabinets which contain some of the mechanism for the air-operated doors, and they also come factory fitted with the vacuum brake line, but also the air pipes that were necessary to supply the air for those operating doors. I also like this rib on the end. You can see that that's actually pretty fine, and we've got the correct number of rivets on there too. Looking around the rest of the wagon, everything does look really nice. I do like the hinge detail on the side. Again, we've also got the rivet detail on the upper parts, and some of what looks to be possibly pipework, or maybe even some kind of lip, just to stop errant iron ore during the loading process from getting into the door mechanism and jamming it. The actual body colour is this BR Freight bauxite, and it's a slightly satin finish, but slightly more towards, I guess, the matte end of satin, and it really does look good. The underframe, though, and the bogies, I would have preferred a slightly more matte finish. I think they're just slightly too shiny, but it really is a minor gripe, and certainly one that would be fixed with a little bit of weathering. Going to the loads, and they really do look like actual iron ore. They're on what looks to be a resin platform, which is shaped to fit into the wagons, and it should be noted that you've got a blunt end and a chamfered end on each of these loads, and that allows them to fit into the wagon. Just remember that the chamfered end fits towards the centre. They are a pretty positive fit, and because they are resin, they do give a really nice amount of ballasted weight to these wagons. In the bogies, which do have a good sphere of travel, we've got these metal disc wheels, although one other area where I might fault these is that you can see there we've got quite a deep inset on the outside, and it's something that I do wish that these type of wheels maybe were done with the flat face more towards the front. Real railway vehicles don't actually have such a wide tread, and this does accentuate it just a little bit. I think these would also be improved with those wheel faces painted in a kind of matte or a satin black, just to blend them in. And again, certainly it's something that can be quite easily be done by the end user. I'd also like to highlight we've got this additional detail bag here. We've got the 3-link couplings and coupling hook, which are actually a really nice piece of, I would guess, etched brass. It's painted and finished really, really well. And I think they would certainly improve the look of the wagons, although they may interfere with the slimline tension lock couplings if you do have those fitted as standard. Looking to the other wagons, again, we've got the extra coupling detail. The packaging is actually really, really nice. It protects the wagon, but is not difficult to get access to. And these also provide some really good storage media to be able to store the wagons when not in use on your layout. Now, here we've got a wagon that is missing its load. And as I said in the introduction, this is an area that KR models have reacted really, really swiftly. And if you do have a pack with loads, or at least it's supposed to have loads, that arrives without them, then if you contact KR models, they will send you post-free the missing wagon load. So luckily, we've got one here. And it's just a simple case of, again, really well thought out packaging to be able to find the loads that we need. And again, all of these loads, I think, have slightly different profiles. So it does mean that these are not cookie cutters of each other. They have that kind of randomized look to them, which really is nice to see. So the full rake will look amazing, all loaded up with that iron ore. As you can see on these wagons, again, we've got a different running number, 446001. Same weight, and we've got the same tear weight, but we don't have the British Railways lozenge. And we've also got there the Legend iron ore to work between Tyne Dock and Consett only. Everything else on these wagons is the same. They were built all together in one batch. And looking to the final wagon of this pack, again, different running number, 446025. And we've got all of the same detail that we're looking for on these. What I do like on this is the levers on the end. They look to be a separately fitted item. I'm not sure whether they actually are, but they certainly look good enough to be, and I do like that. You could just imagine flicking that up and the doors pop open. What is interesting is that the levers are correctly handed, so as you can see, they are all on one side of the wagon, which did allow an operator to move down a single side of the wagon to be able to discharge the full train. And I suspect that these were marshalled specifically to have that handle always on the correct side. Running wise, these wagons run exceptionally well. You may have seen them running on Weir Yard on a number of the Monday clubs, and whether you choose to allay them with a Class 9F or a Class 24 or even Class 37s, these really do look well at home. And with a rake of 9, these would certainly be, in real life, quite a challenge for the hauling locomotives, which were usually double-headed. So we turn now to the scores. First up is build quality, and I'm actually really impressed with how these come straight out of the box. There's no loose detailing parts, and they've held up well to all of my handling, with no issues in terms of detailing parts coming loose or even feeling like they're at risk of coming free. All in all, these seem to be a really well put together set of wagons. The only gripe that I could find with them is that the bogie screws did have a propensity to come slightly loose. If this does happen, it's easy enough to just tighten them up a little bit, but certainly it's the only area that I could find to have a fault with. So I'm going to give this a 9.8. Next up is running quality, and this is another area where these wagons perform extremely well. They took in all of the undulations of Weir Yard without any great issues whatsoever, and that sprung-loaded self-centering mechanism on the couplings really helped with getting round the really tight curves if you have those on your layout. They followed the locomotive perfectly well and actually didn't really put up too much of a fight. So even though the real wagons were often double-headed, I found no need to actually do that in model form, and they ran really free and successfully. Again, the only potential area was over long periods of running. It was possible for the bogie screws to work slightly loose, and that again is the only negative that I can find with this, so I'm going to give them a 9.7. When it comes to DCC fitting and innovation, DCC fitting isn't relevant, but innovation, I have to say, I really do like this chassis on this model. They've gone above and beyond to model exactly what the prototypes look like, and it hasn't compromised the actual strength of the model whatsoever. I also like this self-centering mechanism for the couplings. It really is a nice touch. So I'm going to give this a 9.1. On accuracy and quality of finish, it has to be said that this is a really impressive wagon. KR models have gone above and beyond with the very distinctive design of these wagons. I do like the brown bauxite finish, but I can't help but think that really these would be much improved by a dusting over of weathering. The only area where I felt there was a bit of a detraction is that shine on the underframe and bogies. These are finished in quite a shiny plastic, and for me it just felt that these would be much better in a more matte finish. It's not something that can't be fixed with a little bit of weathering powders, but certainly out of the box they just looked a little bit too shiny on the underside. But we're kind of splitting hairs here. That's really the only fault I could find, and there's so many other good points such as this underframe detail that really it's something that's not a huge mountain to climb, and certainly the detail is there, the quality of the mouldings is there. It's just this shine that kind of just catches the eye a little bit. I'm going to give them an 8.9. On value for money, these come in with loads at around £72 and a few pounds less if you buy them without the loads. The loads themselves are really nice, with this resin casting and this mound of perfectly graded and coloured iron ore type material on the top. They just look perfect. Compared with other wagons from other manufacturers on the market, they do compare incredibly favourably. So I'm going to give them a 9.2 out of 10. And that gives us an overall score of 46.7. I'd like to thank again KR Models for sending over all 3 sets of these wagons, and they really do make a distinctive train. They certainly give a purpose to my 9F and my Class 24s, and these are going to be a stalwart performer on Weir Yard for many years to come. I'm Jenny Kirk, and I approve of these. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Did you agree with my findings? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section down below. What did you think about these wagons? What you've seen on the screen? Or indeed, if you're one of the people who's managed to get hold of a set of these wagons, what are your real-world experiences? Now, KR Models tell me that they're looking into whether there is enough demand to do a second release of these. So certainly, if you missed out this time round, do keep your eyes peeled, because there may well be an announcement in the future for another run. And if you liked what you saw today, then certainly it's something to look out for. Now, there may be some models left to order if you check out at Rails of Sheffield, who are KR Model stockists, and also direct from KR Models themselves. And we've got a couple of links in the description box down below just to help you out there. Don't forget as well that you can become a channel member, and that gives you the rewards of early access to the channel's Friday videos, advert free, as well as extra perks in the Monday Club chat, including your name in green, extra emoticons, and just making yourself stand out as one of the crew. You can also head on over to Patreon and help support the channel to make the videos that you want to see with a range of tiers of benefits. And please don't forget to tickle that like button, share this video to social media, and subscribe and ring the bell if you want to be kept up to date on what videos are coming out. We've also got our full merch store down below, so do check out what we've got available. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself, and until next time, happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky 107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N. from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, Alan Dickerson, Eddie Popper, Karen Nichol, Medwin Williams, Crossways Point Junction, 3B Rail, and Jennifer Garrett. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.